The average man today is sleepwalking through life. Many never reaching their true potential, let alone ever crossing the finish line to living a purposeful life. Yet, the hunger still exists, albeit buried amidst his cluttered mind, misguided beliefs, and values that no longer serve him. It's time to align yourself for greatness. It's time to become a revolutionary man. Stay strong, my brother.
Welcome, everyone, to the Revolutionary Man podcast. It's where we challenge to break through barriers, help us step into greatness, and to live with power and impact. I'm your host, Alain Dumonceaux. So let me ask you something. How often have you felt stuck? Like you're moving through life on autopilot, just doing enough to get by. You tell yourself that's fine, that you're comfortable. But deep down, the truth. Comfort has become a cage. Mediocrity has taken hold. In today's episode, we're going to deal with not settling for a life that's just good enough. It's going to be about breaking the chains that are holding us back and reclaiming our edge. And so today I'm going to show you how to identify mediocrity, face it head on, and replace it with intention, growth, and purpose. Because here's the truth, gentlemen. We weren't made for being average. We were made for excellence. So I want you to take a moment, consider these two questions. Where have you let comfort lead to complacency in your life? And what would happen if you dared to dream bigger, to push harder, and to step outside of your comfort zone? And I just want you to hold on to these thoughts as we get into today's conversation. So we've set the stage. We've identified the enemy is mediocrity. We've asked the tough questions. And now it's time to dig deeper, to move, to uncover these strategies for breaking free and living with intention. And so mediocrity just doesn't enter unnoticed. It starts with small compromises. It's skipping a workout. It's delaying the hard conversations. It's avoiding the risks that could lead to failure or maybe even success. Over time, these are the decisions, and as they add up, suddenly we find ourselves stuck. And here's the thing. Mediocrity doesn't just rob you of success. It's stealing your confidence. It's stealing at your relationships. It's stealing your sense of purpose. And so we're recognizing that when this takes hold, that the first step we need to do is we need to break free from allowing this insidious thing to continue to control our lives. So let me ask you, have you ever found yourself working harder and harder, yet feeling you're running on a treadmill, moving fast, but you're not going anywhere? That's where I was just a few years ago. Was at a time in my life and my career thinking if I just worked a little bit harder, pushed a little bit more, I'd eventually feel fulfilled. But you know what that's like. You feel despite all of these long hours and occasional success, something was truly missing. I didn't realize it then, but I was chasing external validation. That's what it was really about, what others were thinking about me, rather than living in alignment with my true purpose. It was one day I was preparing for what I thought was going to be a career-defining moment. I was presenting to a group of executives who could really help me launch my career to that next level. I was confident in my material, but in the hours leading up to this meeting, I just had this sinking feeling, and this voice started to show up. It was a very familiar voice. It's that inner critic, and it started whispering, "Hey, what if they don't take you seriously? And what if you fail?" I walked into that room with my confidence really shaken. And despite my preparation, the meeting didn't go as I'd hoped for. And later, as I replayed the experience in my head, I realized that I wasn't just battling those executives' expectations. I was battling my own doubts and my own limits that I had placed on myself. Up to that point, I'd been sabotaging my own potential for years without even realizing it. But in the days that followed, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Was this failure just another sign that I wasn't cut out for greatness? Or was it an opportunity for me to dig a little deeper? That's when I started to ask myself some pretty tough questions. Why was I putting so much weight on other people's opinions? What would it look like if I stopped measuring success by their standards and started living by my own? That isn't an easy progress or comfortable process. It required some honesty and lots of reflection. But I'd made a commitment to stop running on this treadmill of mediocrity and start taking intentional steps toward the life I truly wanted. So one of the most powerful realizations I had of this was that mediocrity isn't a lack of ability. It's a lack of clarity. When you don't know what truly matters to you, it's easy for us to go adrift, isn't it? So then I began building a vision to the man that I wanted to become. I got clear on my values. I set goals that aligned with those values, and I started saying no to anything that didn't serve that vision. I wasn't about to change everything overnight, but I was about making small, intentional shifts every single day. And so it was with this mindset that I restructured how I approached every aspect of my life in business, and I focused on fewer, more meaningful opportunities rather than chasing every potential lead and I did the same thing in my relationships, and I made time for deep conversations rather than surface level interactions. And in my personal growth, I got committed to reading and journaling and taking on challenges that pushed me outside of my comfort zone. What were the results from this? For sure, confidence. Clarity is another one. And I had a renewed sense of purpose. That's not to say it hasn't been perfect, because it sure isn't perfect. But I wasn't striving for perfection. I was striving for excellence. And so when I have these moments of doubt, I know now that I have tools that I can use to navigate through the rocky times. And so, gentlemen, the biggest takeaway I have for you on this story is you can't break free from mediocrity until you confront the habits and the beliefs that are keeping you there. I know it's not easy, but it's worth it. If you can do it, or if I can do it, you can do it. And I'll share exactly with you in this next part of today's episode about how I went and did that. But first, I read this quote from Theodore Roosevelt. He said, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how strong man stumbles. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena." Think about it. This quote reminds me of living fully requires for us to be in the game, to get in the arena, to face discomfort, to take risks, and to dare greatly. Mediocrity just doesn't stand on the sidelines. It's time for us to get onto the field and take care of this bad boy. And so here are some tips I'd like you to encourage you to take to try into your life. Embrace the one thing. I started narrowing my focus, right? Identify the single most important task that will take and create momentum in my life. So I asked myself daily, what is the one thing I can do today that will make everything easier or unnecessary? And prioritize that task and commit to it. The next thing is using our inner authority. And you get this information from the book called The Tools. And then they talk about reclaiming our power by stepping into our inner authority. It's to visualize the most decisive, grounded version of ourself. Whenever I feel paralyzed or in doubt, I ask, what would my best self do right now? Then act from that place of strength and clarity. Number 3, commit to the 1% daily growth. And this comes right out of Atomic Habits. Again, they talk about transformation doesn't require massive leaps. Focus on being 1% better each day, whether it's in our fitness, our relationships, our work, whatever that area of life, those small, consistent improvements compound to extraordinary results over time. If this episode resonates with you and you want to dive deeper into these tools, The One Thing by Gary Keller, The Tools by Phil Stutz and Barry Michaels, and The Atomic Habits by James Clear each offer practical strategies to help you push past mediocrity and into a life of purpose. So what are some key takeaways from today? Mediocrity is not a destiny. It thrives on inaction, fear, and complacency. But by focusing on what truly matters and reclaiming our authority, committing to daily growth, you can break free from its grip. And so, gentlemen, it's time to step into the arena and claim the life you were meant to live. Before we wrap today, I have a challenge for you. It's called the Interrogator Challenge. This is a free quiz that we offer to help you identify the areas in your life where you're out of alignment and in alignment. And it's a great opportunity for you to gain growth in your life. Just visit members.theawakenedman.net to get started. And remember, The first step is yours to take. The rewards are life-changing. So live with intention, lead with integrity, and start now. Thank you for joining me on the Revolutionary Man podcast. Break the chains, step into your greatness, and remember, change begins with one choice. Make it today, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Revolutionary Man podcast. Are you ready to own your destiny? To become more the man you are destined to be? Join the Brotherhood that is The Awakened Man at theawakenedman.net and start forging a new destiny today.